Just think of the
Okay.
county park.
Let me get this. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here this morning. Mr. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Lorenzen.
Here.
Farnham.
Here.
Chittick. Here. Luddington.
Here.
Patrick. Bruner.
Here.
Hoyt.
Present. Okay, you have 3 sets of minutes, the regular meeting of May 13th and a special meeting on May 20th and 26th. Assume you've had a chance to look at those. Are there any questions or additions that need to be made or corrections? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Phil moves.
Second.
Derek seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are carried. Claims against the county. You've had those for a couple of days. Do you have any clarification you need or questions?
Something about housing inmates, is that $10,000 after 1 month?
Yeah, I assume so. I don't,
I just.
Crawford County.
Yeah.
yes,
1 month?
yeah. Yes. Any other questions? Motion to approve. Derek moves, Phil seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It does carry. Claims for the county board members. Any additions or corrections or questions? Hearing none, motion to approve. Derek moves, Phil seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Does carry. Public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where we ask to invite the public to make any comments they wish to address to the board. Limit, we have a rule to limit to 5 minutes. Is there any comments, please? Okay, we'll move along. Action on airport construction bids and related alternatives. I think that would be you, Derek.
Yeah, that's me. So I got forwarded an email from Barry, I believe yesterday, 2 days ago, from Rick Boris, who's kind of the head cheese there at the state, and said they're not gonna entertain any other, not gonna rebid this thing again. So Barry has been trying to reach out to him to get some more information on this, but as it stands right now, we're at a bit of an impasse. So I don't know if we want to hold off and see if we can get some more information, if we just want to bite the bullet. I guess my primary concern is if we move forward with the project and bid as it stands, we will be pulling funding from the following year, maybe you know, but as far as programming for this year and that potential 100% federal on a project, I don't know how that affects us. That would be my primary concern, outside of just getting beat up by the,
Sorry.
no, it's fine, go ahead.
It's stated in that they would proceed with, they were okay with going ahead and awarding the contract. That was the first thing they said, the one I got. And then they said that if we did that, then it would shove everything else into 21.
Which you're taking as implying that there will be we will not have a project that is said that will get the 100% federal funding.
That's how I looked at it. But what we can do, we need to have a meeting on the day of our study session, a special meeting, which will describe, but we could add something, we could add to that agenda. We have to have, a public hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so to that public hearing, we could tack on a special meeting to move on that. The only criteria that we have at this point is the bid is good for 90 days, and we've already passed or coming up on 50 days. So we either, I
We should
mean,
do a decision by the study session.
yeah. Would that be acceptable? That way you could find out as much information as you need, so we can either proceed one way or the other, or whatever.
Well, I just wanna, I wanna make sure that all their options are off the table before I just throw up my hands on this, so.
Can I ask one
I'm kind of
question?
confused too.
You're saying basically the overrun would shove out any project for 21 because the money'd have to roll out of that, which I understand. Was there anything scheduled that you were looking at as a project for 21?
Well, yeah, and that's changed with this process as well, so. The first iteration was the resurfacing of the parallel taxway and the completion of the ramp, that corner was not
Right.
done, right? And with the follow-on project being the new taxiway, the L-shaped taxiway that allows flow-through traffic at the airport.
You wanna just talk to Barry? He's available.
Yeah, it's fine, I mean, especially if you guys have questions beyond.
Yeah, I'm just, go ahead, Dan.
What's it gonna cost the county?
Five
Five.
extra.
I mean,
Go through.
what's the total county have to pay? Five?
28, so it'd be about 33 grand.
Why are we not doing it then?
Well,
Because we're still paying, ultimately our tax dollars are paying for a very excessively high bid.
Right, so I wanna be a good steward of the money. B, I'm not a fan of awarding contracts to people that are gouging the shit out of us.
That's basically what
And
it's doing.
C, I want to, because it's not just $5,000, if by going through and awarding and agreeing to this bid, we are potentially removing 100%
Are
federal
you
funding for
available?
the next project.
What was
So
the?
not just 5,000.
Okay, we'll call you on the phone, okay?
What's that?
I mean, I'm calling you, but the one that's
Potentially,
on their speaker. Okay,
easily,
thanks.
what our normal amount would
You
be.
need the number, buddy?
Initially, we got two or three bids.
Yes.
The first
3-1.
one, that was still over.
Can
That
you,
was for
I can hear
both.
you.
This
314
last one was a single bidder.
707
Bid well over what they're.
6863.
Did you say?
Mr. Brenner, I think you said, you asked a question about how much additional money, that's because of the higher bid, but there's still, it's 33,000.
Of the total.
With the 5,000 added to it, it was about 28 was our share to start with.
It'd be a
Hey,
33
Barry,
total.
Doggy.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes more
How are you
sense
today?
Why not to do it?
Very good, how are you?
Okay,
All right.
we need order
All
now.
right, we, I think we're ready. Gentlemen, here's Barry.
You wanna start over?
So Barry, I was just giving everybody the download where it stood as of this morning. I can say I just responded to your text there. You hadn't heard from Rick, but I was saying that my biggest concern about moving forward was not just the extra amount and the things we discussed, but it seems to me that if we would have to dip into our next year's funding, that would basically prevent us from being able to use the 100% federal funding for that year's project. Is that correct?
So, yeah, so essentially if the board elects to go forward with the current bid as is, additional entitlement money would be shifted essentially from the next project into this project. And so, yes, so there's basically that would create a shortfall in the budget, in the state's budget for that next project. And the way to replenish that would be to wait another year for another round of entitlement money to come in. And so I think that's what the state has in mind as a solution to that, is essentially just delaying that next project a calendar year, essentially.
Right. And so with that, just because of the timing, we would lose that opportunity for the 100%?
No, not necessarily. So the way the 100% works is year 20 entitlement money is 100% federally funded, so that would mean no local share for that entitlement amount. And so the way the state is handling it is because it is a block grant state, that means basically all the entitlement money comes from, for the entire state, comes from the FAA to the state in one block grant. And so when that grant comes to the state, it is 100% federal funded. And so when the state passes that along to each particular project, it will remain 100% federal funding regardless of the year that it is implemented. So if you incorporate your fiscal year 20 entitlement money into a project that happens to occur in calendar year 2022, that fiscal year 20 entitlement portion is still 100% federally funded. So it's tied to the funding, not necessarily the year in which the project occurs. So you will still be saving some local share on whichever project that funding is tied to, if that makes sense. So if the state determines we need to use some of the fiscal year 20 money towards this parallel taxiway project, then that portion would have no local share. If a portion of it goes towards the next project, that portion would have no local share. So it's a little confusing, but
I'm tracking now. Let me see if I got this right.
So it's administered.
So basically, every year we bank a certain amount, and regardless of what we do. So how this block grant works is that I think it was like 140,000, something like that. That goes, maybe it's more than that. That goes in. You know what it is?
160, isn't it 160?
Yeah,
150,000 per
Sorry.
year is the standard federal contribution.
Sorry.
So what they're doing is for the fiscal year 20 grant, they're actually putting in 166,000 and some change to account for
state loan.
the extra match that the state and sponsor normally put in.
Got it.
So basically getting more money from the FAA in fiscal year 20 with no local match.
That really clears it up. I appreciate that. So it's really immaterial. We'll get it either way. It just wherever it appears, whether it's on this current project or the future. Okay.
You have a recommendation?
You're not losing out on that opportunity to benefit from that.
Okay.
You have a recommendation, Barry?
Okay.
Can you hear me, Barry?
Yes.
Do you have a recommendation?
Let me caveat that. Sorry, Jeff.
Nope, you're fine.
Our options today are we can proceed or we can move forward 2 weeks and make a final decision on this at the study session. Do you think it's worth our time to wait and see if we can get some more clarity from the state at this point?
Good point.
So you saw, well, some of you have seen I'm sure you talked about it, seen the email from Rick Boris.
Yep.
With his opinion that the option to, I guess his option was going forward without any further rebid of this scope. Rick is the programmer for the Division of Aeronautics, so I mean his opinion carries some weight. We did not hear back from anyone else that was on that email. An assumption would be that they're all on the same page, but I've left Rick a couple messages to try to get hold of him before this meeting today, and he has not returned my calls or emails just yet. From a timing perspective, waiting 2 weeks is not going to jeopardize anything on the project. The state's award window is 90 days after the letting and we're about halfway through that period, so another 2 weeks is not going to jeopardize any award per se. And as a side note, the state typically does not, in recent years, has not stuck within that award window anyway. So there's a potential that that they could run past that and still win the project. So if there's uncertainty and you wish to have more discussion and more, I guess, additional confirmation from Rick and the rest of the group that was on the email chain, I think tabling it and putting it out another 2 weeks at least gives us maybe some time to do that. So if that makes everyone at least a little more comfortable, and we can at least try to have more discussion about it, I'd say that would be okay. On the other hand, if there's a consensus, obviously, that you just want to move forward, then that's certainly your call, and we'll support your decision whichever way you choose.
Okay, so basically, no downside to giving another 2 weeks as far as you can see, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Will that hurt anything on the construction side, waiting 2 weeks and not awarding it? Will that make it impossible to get done this year?
I don't believe so. Ultimately, it's going to come down to, if you decide to proceed with an award, it's ultimately going to come down to the contractor's schedules. And sitting here in June and wondering what the schedule's going to be in August or September or whenever they decide to go forward, I don't think 2 weeks is at that point in time is going to make too much of a difference for this size project.
Dan, do you have a question of the engineer?
The sprayers for one thing, will affect the spraying out there, because I don't know what time of the year they come in.
Early July typically.
Okay.
Should. Yes.
I have a question to Barry. John Chittick. What's the physical condition of the taxiway now? I mean, what is this something we have to get taken care of in the next year, or can it possibly survive for a little while longer?
So we have one of our resident inspectors was out on site yesterday. I believe Derek was out there with him for a couple of minutes looking at the taxiway. I've seen the pictures that he sent me some pictures of it yesterday and kind of described it to me. The gentleman that was out there has decades of experience in construction and observing these kind of things.
Sure.
So I trust his eyes as well. But the taxiway is not going to completely fail down into the ground immediately, but it certainly over time can get worse. And what that the potential that has is it could potentially change the level of rehabilitation that we're looking at doing.
Sure.
And so right now the project plans to remove the top 4 inches of the asphalt surface, repair whatever cracks remain, and then overlay it in. In theory, if we were to if the taxiway pavement were to get worse, removing the 4 inches may not leave us with a stable underlying material. So, we may need to remove maybe 6 inches, which would be, I think, the entire section that's there. And then you're talking about potentially a little more money to put additional asphalt back to bring it back up to the current surface. So, over time, as it gets worse, the potential for additional costs to repair go up. But I've seen airports with taxiways in worse condition, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right way you want to operate your airport. It was noted that this project was necessary a few years ago by the state. We kind of talked them through it and kind of worked the priorities of the airport to allow us to do it with this timing. You know, I think it's definitely a needed project. The timing of it, whether it happens, you know, this fall or next fall, is kind of a toss-up. But you, like I said, you always run the risk, especially going through another winter cycle.
Sure.
You know, you run the risk of things getting worse. Certainly, they're not going to get better just sitting out there. So
Okay, I understand.
Just
Thanks.
it's in usable condition, but
Phil has a question.
at some point
No?
the cracks increase and you could get some loose material, and then that's
Go ahead,
there's always
Derek.
potential there for.
So,
Yeah.
Barry, you and I had talked yesterday, I think, about, you know, how, you know, potential ways to force the issue, but basically what it boils down to is there won't be any, potentially there wouldn't be any future projects until the taxiway is fixed. That's how the state would kind of force the issue. Now, they say they're not gonna rebid it. Does that mean that if we don't accept this bid and we move forward a year or two and we wanna do something else, they say add the taxiway first, obviously we would have to rebid it then, correct? Not that I'm gonna
Yeah,
go down that road, but I mean, that's basically what lever we have.
Yeah, my thought on it is they will prioritize this taxiway project above other projects. Certainly above, you know, the next couple projects on your wish list are expansion projects. You know, expanding the apron on the east side, expanding a new taxiway. They will always prioritize repair of existing pavements ahead of expansion of new pavements, so that's number one. Secondly, the condition that one is in certainly warrants a priority rating for it. So yeah, if you request to go forward with another project, let's say, the state is going to push back pretty hard on it, knowing that this is, it has been, noted verbally as a priority in the last couple of years, and I think really probably the only other thing that might step in front of it would be a runway repair, and your runway's in much better shape.
Well, let me rephrase the question. So if we decide not to accept this bid and next year we say, hey, this repair of the taxiway is our priority, obviously it has to be rebid again, right?
Yes. The question is how the state would handle that. I know Rick's email indicated that from his perspective, rebidding is again was not an option, but I can't imagine they would force a project to be done with local dollars that is clearly eligible for federal and state dollars. So I don't imagine they would go down that path, but it certainly would be a little bit of
Right, well,
I guess.
I'm with you. I just want to know what all our options are. I'm not saying that's the way I'm going to go, but I would like to hear from Rick. So I think our position at this point is hold off 2 weeks, see if we can get some answers from the state. If not, we'll make a decision at that time.
Yeah, really what the state could do from a funding perspective is say, the only funding we're going to give you going forward is to fix this taxiway before anything else. So that's probably their bottom line. And then, how, if we want to, go in a different direction than they're going to agree to, I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
Sure.
Are there other questions or comments at this time from the board that Barry? Is it okay if I make a comment? I think you're right, it probably doesn't hurt anything to wait 2 weeks, but I don't think it's gonna change anything. The tone of the letter was, guys, let's get this resolved and move on. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's totally up to you if you want to do it for, go ahead.
You talk about block grant of 156,000 and the bid 156,000 have anything to do with the payment of 400,000 for the project?
Yeah, it's banked every year. So that's what we accrue over time.
I see.
When we were dealing with the bogue issue and all that, we were losing those, that 150, it's a 4-year
I see,
window.
okay.
So
So
if it
that's,
falls off, we lose it.
okay, I see, all right.
So,
So it sounds to me like in a nutshell, a contractor has us over a barrel and knows it.
and the state would like to have us move on so that
Right.
they can move on to other things. But if you want to table it for 2 weeks to see if anything
I don't think
changes,
it'll make any difference.
I
I
think,
don't think it is.
What do you think?
I'd like to, just to find out what the answer is. I may go the way that you guys are saying right now, but I say, at this point, no answer is not sufficient for me.
well, is there a motion?
I move that we table this for 2 weeks until the study session.
So, I'll second.
You got the
I
second,
mean, he
go
knows
Dan.
what's going on, we don't, so.
Yeah, whatever he wants, fine with me.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling this deal signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, it's tabled, we'll get it on the agenda. Hopefully, Barry, thank you so much for being available
Thanks,
for us.
Barry.
And maybe we can get a little clarification, we'll have it on the agenda for the special meeting in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right, guys, thank you, Barry.
Thanks, Barry.
Take care.
All right, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'll see what I can find out in the meantime. Appreciate it.
All right,
I've got a question. It's just for the taxiway. It's
Correct.
nothing to do with the apron, this.
Initially, when we bid it, and it was only 25% over the initial bid, it was the taxiway
Oh.
and the ramp.
now we're paying almost as much for this
just
as we
taxi.
would have paid for the other two.
Does the guy,
Pretty sweet.
that guy know we only one bid, is that the reason why it's so high? Yeah.
That and they.
And we changed the scope. I mean, we had all kinds of stuff, tried to make it, sweeten the deal, leaving the roads and stuff behind, and we still got shoved up our nose. So,
Ooh.
Good save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other comment about this issue? Thank you, Derek, for all the time you put into it,
No worries.
Yep.
so.
Is the phone still on? Barry still there?
I realize, I'm
No,
on that
he turned
committee.
Flashing.
I'm on that
That's
committee, you never tell me.
somebody else.
I don't know anything.
You were out there yesterday and looked at the taxiway. Is it just got cracks or is it starting to crumble?
No, I mean, there's no, and the engineer that was out there, he mentioned FOD hazard, but, I didn't see a lot of like actual breakage.
Okay.
The primary concerns are, there's at least 2 significant spots where, I don't know if you've seen it, we fixed some spots where
Right.
we basically put that, what do you
Right.
call it, it's like the rubber
Yeah.
patch that goes over the cracks.
Yeah.
That would probably be your single biggest FOD concern, is that breaks loose. I didn't see a lot of, none of it was flapping, none of it was loose. And we had some weather where you think that could have potentially been the case, but yeah, that you're starting to see where the actual, around those cracks is starting to sink in. So I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that when they do that 4-inch, that they may have a couple spots where they have to go all the way down. But,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, driving over it, it looks like an old road that's been patched with rubber, it's not, nobody's plane's gonna fall in a pothole or anything like that, but yeah, it needs to be.
Now, depending on the winter, we've seen
Right.
some inspection where the gaps have opened up quite a bit.
It's
So-
like anything else, if you don't maintain it, eventually you're gonna have to replace it.
And then it,
Asphalt or concrete?
Asphalt.
asphalt. Other questions on that issue? Okay, good. All right, the next item we've got is to approve the audit. We all heard from Matt from the Whiffley. Are you ready to approve the audit as presented? Is there yes?
I'm sorry to backtrack with all that. Did you call all those in favor? I had
Yes.
a motion in a second.
Yes, and
You
it
did
was
I'm sorry.
unanimous, I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
yes. I think I did, didn't I, guys?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't forget this time, okay, good. I'm on the ball this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, we've received the audit. Dan, do you have a question?
I still asked about, so the county was not in compliance with state budgeting laws.
Well, yeah, because we spent more.
Okay,
Then we
that's
budget.
all that means.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted,
Well, Don would be over here just giving us all kinds of what for. if we-
well, I know. Yeah.
Okay, no, we're fine,
Oh,
okay? Entertain a motion to approve the audit.
I'll move.
John moves,
Second.
Derek seconds. All those in favor, oh, roll call, do we need a roll call? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It does carry, thank you. Next item is, let's see, resolution that you have in front of you, you have a new resolution. There's a lot of whereases, but the final is now therefore be it resolved by the Edgar County Board that the real estate property in Edgar County has been adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, the interest penalty shall be waived for a 120-day period following the effective date of Public Law or Public Act 101-635, and that was enacted on last Friday. So it'd be 120 days from last Friday is when the governor signed that bill to become effective immediately. And the annual sales, and the annual tax sale will be not scheduled until at least 120 days after the effective date of the same act. Be it further resolved that the county board encourages the county collector at his discretion to set the installment due date dates of August 21st, 2020 and October, the second payment, October 23rd, 2020, whereas allowing taxpayers more time to pay their tax obligation while at the same time providing adequate collections to be distributed to the taxing bodies. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question, summarize whatever, but as I read this and remember, the governor basically signed into law what we'd planned on doing anyway.
That's
Isn't
correct.
that so?
Yeah, it matches almost exactly what.
Yeah, I mean, other than we didn't do 120 days, we did 90 after, but yeah.
To the taxing, like, school district, do they have any objection to this as far as getting their tax money?
Well, I mean, Don has talked to some of them and they all understand the situation,
Okay, good.
okay? And we, you know, there's a lot that will prepay the minute they get the bill,
Right, right.
okay? And they'll pay both installments.
Okay,
I mean, there's several counties that have already had their tax bills out for a couple weeks, and they've gotten 52% and 53% already in. And you know, there's hardships all over.
yeah.
But the reason for those high percentages is because people are paying both installments.
Same time, yeah. Okay.
Some people are hit less hard than others, so, okay.
Okay.
Other questions? Motion to approve, yes,
So if it's 120 days from June, what, 2nd or 3rd, June 1st? You say it was last Friday?
this past Friday, that
Okay,
would
so
be the,
June 7th or 5th, so 120 days, June, July, August. So September, or no, it'd be October.
it was the 5th, so 120 days,
So it'd be October 5th,
yeah,
roughly.
right.
So on October 5th, even though the last installment is not due till the 23rd, so on October 5th is when the penalties will start, according to this.
At his discretion.
No. What the governor, with his thing, it's 120 days from June 5th,
It shall not start any before that,
shall not start.
any before that. Let me,
So we can vote later to defer penalties longer if we want, unless the governor speaks
Well,
again.
no, Don wants,
But according to the chairman, when I talked to him earlier, he said it's at the county treasurer's discretion, not ours.
The town,
Oh, right,
we're just
right.
asking, we're asking the county treasurer, we're making him known our feelings. The county treasurer is not bound by what,
Okay,
I have a quick question. That was signed into law on the 5th, okay? 120 days, when will our taxpayers start accruing penalty and or interest? Because that would be roughly October 5th. But their final payment isn't due till the 23rd, so they would include no penalty or interest until after the 23rd. Second install, right, okay?
And then if we feel that things,
I understand.
what I understand,
Right,
then
and
he
then,
can move that back.
and then if something else blows up or something else, we can always work together if there's some other issue, right?
Okay.
Well, obviously, yes. Okay, thank you. All right. I think the governor's, the deal is you can't do it, but if you want to extend it, I mean,
Okay.
you can do that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure I'm right, rather than just tell you something.
so basically this resolution, all we're gonna do is vote and say we agree with the state law, because we don't have a choice.
And yeah, basically.
Okay.
Of course, with this we didn't know it was gonna be signed or.
No,
even-
I understand that, we were getting ready to do it anyway, but,
Yeah. We were in lockstep. We're actually a little bit more,
right.
we're lenient than the governor is being, okay? Motion to approve the resolution. Phil moves, Dan seconds. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk, Mr. Clerk. would you call
Lorenzen,
it?
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Sheddick,
Yes,
Luddington,
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
It does carry. Okay, resolution to reappoint M. Scott Ingram, trustee, Paris Community Fire Protection District. Yeah, Carl moves, John seconds. Roll.
Lorenzen,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Sheddick,
yes,
Luddington,
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Approved. A resolution as to acceptance of oath, office, and bond for Scott Ingram. Motion. Carl,
I'll second,
John. Carl and John, please.
Lorenzen,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Sheddick,
yes,
Luddington,
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, it does carry. Reappoint Jane Tomey to Edgar County Housing Authority with the term expiring 8/1/24. Carl moves, Phil seconds. I do want to note that I know Carl's talked to several of the board members, and I think they're clicking on all cylinders, and we appointed Jane for a few months to fill out a term, and I think that board is working together well, and I think it would be appropriate to reappoint her. So, we've already got a motion and a second. Augie, would you call the roll? Well, wait a minute, is there any further discussion on that? Okay, Augie?
Lorenzen,
Yes.
Farnum,
Yes.
Sheddick,
yes,
Luddington,
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Okay. We need a motion to file the semi-annual report of the sheriff. You have that in your packet. It was, I think, right behind the audit, so if you have any questions.
is that all that's required on the semi-annual reports, is just the income that they brought in?
I think so. That's all we've ever gotten, John.
That's what I was thinking and trying to remember the last one, so.
Doesn't make that right. I mean, it could be other things, but that's what's been reported. Okay. Motion to approve? Dan moves. Bill seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Next one is the county clerk and recorder semi-annual report. Augie, did you want to have, this was here today on your desk. and it's a quite detailed report showing comparisons, and thank you, Augie. So, any questions of the clerk? Motion to approve, Phil moves,
Second.
Derek seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It does carry. Thank you, Augie. Next, we have a renewal special event liquor license for Robert Morgan, doing business as Castle Fin Vineyard and Winery.
Not on mine.
Not on mine.
That was added,
It was added, remember?
Oh,
what he gave us
That's
Monday.
right.
Yeah, I brought that.
Yeah, I
in
remember
earlier.
that.
No, that's,
Okay.
sorry, Dan, we're
Sorry.
keeping that a
That's all I
secret from
remember,
you.
I remember
We'll
talking
see now
about
once
it.
in a while.
Little.
Is there a motion to approve that liquor license, please?
So moved.
Derek moves, Carl seconds. Do we need a roll or just a
Yes,
roll, please, sir?
Lorenzen,
Yes.
Farnham,
Yes.
Chittick,
Yes.
Luddington,
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes,
Okay. Next, we'll go to the highway department. We have a couple of things to bring out this morning, and you will get a packet which you can give to them now if you'd like. And it is a phased renovation of the roof system and the library. I'm sorry, the elevator library. That's all we need is a library to worry about
you
too.
can see that too, it's like me.
Let's talk about senile. At any rate, that was prepared by Arnie Johnson and his firm. Yes, please. And that is for a working, to make sure that we have working documents that as state money becomes available or federal money, that we have the project broken down into, what is it, five or six sections? 5 sections. The first section to be funded almost immediately, and we'll have that totally in for work on the courthouse, which would be the 4 porticos and shoring them all up and doing the work there. Do you want to describe that a little bit more? It'd be moving some equipment and basically new work in renovating and stabilizing those roof systems on the 4 porticos. And that's that's the first phase.
Where
And that-
are we going to move, it's the air handler units you're talking about, where are they gonna be moved to?
Not the handlers, the
Okay.
air fixtures themselves,
Okay.
on the ground next to me.
Yeah, there's a line out there that you can see that the engineers want to pull them off the roof and put them down where they can be less obtrusive, and they're gonna have to move them anyway to stabilize the roofs. It'll be easier to to work on where they will be, and they will improve the appearance of the building all at the same time.
That was my only question, that they found a good unobtrusive place to stick them.
I think so.
They're not
Andy?
on all 4, right? They're on like 1 or 2.
They're on 2, and there's 3 on one and 2 on the other, I believe.
And you're just gonna 4 pads? And-
Yeah, and they're gonna be lined up and screened like the other ones sort
And
of.
then just run the conduit, just
Right.
in a corner somewhere?
Yeah. So, at any rate, then with the other 4 phases of the construction, we're going to go ahead, and you've already been told and asked to approve this, we're gonna go ahead and submit the remainder of the projects to the $25 million project grant cycle that's due when?
I think it's the 30th of
The 30th of this month. So, now, whether we get all, part, some, we don't know yet. But now we're in a position as state funds become available, if we say we only get phase 2 on the next grant cycle, or phase 2 and 3, then we'll be able to, when more money and more bonds are sold, we're not gonna have to wait. If they have a ready-built project funds, we can hand it to them. So that's where we're gonna be. So there's really not any action required other than making sure that everybody's aware of what's going on. We reached out to the elevator issue, quite frankly, since the elevator is gonna be used more and more and more now because of the way the traffic flow is set up in this facility. We need to make sure that we've done everything we can in the future to make sure we've got a long-term solution to all of our issues here at the courthouse. Did I say that pretty? So, if you have the next study session, you have a chance to look at some of these things and question them. Nothing's carved totally in stone, okay? We're just in a position where we can move forward rather nimbly when grant cycles come up. Doesn't mean we're not gonna fight like hell to get the part of the 25 million, but, you know, odds are we're not gonna get everything we want, so. Okay? Do you gentlemen wanna correct me on anything? Yes.
Quick question, and I'm assuming this is correct, but the 5 phases are lined out in importance of need, you know, what's gotta be done first, what can go longer, or was there a different criteria on the order?
That'll be up to the board. The architect's telling us it'll take a couple, $300,000 to get to the roof, and then you got, what, $1.6 million once you get there, so the roof's original. I guess, to make a long story short, if the elevator would move ahead of the roof, it's a board preference, but yes, the architect and your helpers think that those phases, they want to start on the roof.
Yeah, we need to do we're smartest doing phase 1 than 2, we're not trying to do any jump yet.
They are prioritized, but
Right.
there
That's
can
what
be
I
some.
assumed, but checking the elevator, I understand, separate issue,
But if the elevator should break next week,
then it moves up the list real
right,
quick, yeah.
right,
No, I
and we have
understand.
that flexibility, or we
Yeah.
should have that flexibility, and I think, you know, the state and the feds wanna help us, I believe,
Right.
where we can, so.
I think you guys done a fantastic job of positioning yourself. One of these, the fast track, which we missed the date on, I thought we looked fantastic, because you guys have been working on this for, what, Jeff, 10 years? And
Yeah.
as recently as 17, you have an architect's report from 17 that says, look, this is needed. So I think the project's positioned correctly, I just think it's a tall order. I mean, you're pushing close to $4 million out of 25. But like Jeff said, you want to position yourself to,
And hey, anything we can get done is nibbling on the problem.
Yeah, and if you ask for $1 million and you need 4, they're not gonna give you the difference. Hey, you sure you don't want some more money?
Yeah.
So,
How that works?
one last comment I want to make.
Please.
Josh has done all the work on this, and he's even bumping around on what it's called RIRED. So with any luck, I've been pushing back against him, but that's just for engineering. So there's a small chance that through one of these various opportunities, NOFA numbers, that the engineering would only be approved, which I think takes you a step towards, I mean, engineering's 15%, $4 million, a lot of money, so. So
That's
Jeff's
600,000.
instructed Josh to exhaust all opportunities with this round of bond money, and in anticipation of possibly additional capital money over the next 2 or 3 years.
right. And I wanna add my thanks to Joshua.
Josh,
You've really been, I mean, I hear from you almost every day, and we're making progress, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, phase 1 was just the engineering, 33,000, that,
No, that's part of phase 1 would be the porticos.
okay, but that's actually construction, so.
Yes,
Okay.
there is some,
I was
no,
kind of vague on the things, I just wondered, so, okay.
right?
Yeah, you got Dan,
We gotta be careful about the source of the money at this point,
Okay.
because it hasn't been announced. And
I
we
just
don't wanna
wondered,
step
kind
on
of
our,
vague, so I just asked a question.
right. It would, we're talking about roughly $250,000, $300,000 that we're gonna be receiving, and we're gonna have to put a little money into that too.
Okay.
So, but that will get us off the ground and move us into, say, phase 2, okay?
Okay.
Good question. We wanna make sure everybody's clear on the deal.
Did you want to move the public participation meeting?
Yes, that's next. In order to even spend any of this money, we have to have a public participation meeting. That's why we're having a special meeting / public hearing before the next study session, where we're gonna also add this in. And that's required of us to put an ad in the paper. Josh will be putting an ad in the paper on Saturday, so if you see it in there, you'll know what's going on. And then we'll go from there. And, you know, maybe some of the public will have some comments and hopefully the support, and we'll go from there. Okay? But it's just one of the steps we need to take that we're covered. And Josh has asked us to do that, so it's not a problem. Okay?
Isn't this a part of what Coles County's doing?
They are they officially associated yet? No. They have asked us to participate, but we haven't, no. Coles County is participating with us on another grant that involves the selection of the jail. I mean, the evaluation, the countywide evaluation of what we need, where, and all the different questions, and some engineering and architectural on the jail. So we've got several balls in the air, and Joshua's been involved with that project too. And that looks real good, but we're not gonna hear anything on that at all till late summer, or probably early fall, late fall, right?
That's what we've heard.
So, please, in any of the next few meetings, if you have any questions or contributions or anything else, please let us know. And Josh will, and of course Aaron will be involved in study sessions, so we'll go from there. Okay? Can we move on? Or are you okay?
Jeff, do they need to call for a special meeting, or is that after?
No, the board has to, 3 members of the board, our clerk will handle all that, okay? Hi, folks. Are you here for the county board meeting?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
If we can be.
Oh, no, I just wanted to make sure.
I know we've already had our public comment.
No,
but
we can open it back up.
These are the people that are concerned about what's going on at the bottom of the bottom.
Do you want to introduce them and make them feel comfortable?
Brent Mel Backer.
Yes, sir.
I just thought, I just heard you had a meeting, so I didn't know. Thank Carl, he really done me a lot of good on this. He interjected on this thing and cleaned it up a lot. But doggone it, it was a serious matter when they wasn't staking them pads down, and then pads had floated down on Route 1. And Jeff Schweitzer, my local township road commissioner, was coming home at 12:30 that night, and then pads had floated and covered up a culvert. He said he was doing 50 miles an hour and come across this water that deep in the road. He said if I'd met anybody, I hydroplaned at that point and could have hit somebody. So they kind of cleaned it up, but my issue is this too. They're destructing the county roads. They're destructing the ditches on these township roads. And I address it, and if I wouldn't address it, I wasn't gonna do nothing. This morning, I was down there asking them, I said, okay, you're drilling your wells, and I'm here to say, I was compensated for this stuff, but I'm not taking their abuse. And they're leaving, they put these pads down, they drive their heavy equipment over, shards of stuff off them things are just there. My comment to the supervisor was, if a great big pad which weighs thousands of pounds floats away, what do you think them little pieces of board you're leaving is gonna do? They're gonna float down through my cornfield. Now, my comment was made to me that, Mr. Becker, you compensated on this whole thing. Okay, I was. What about the next guy down the road, that maybe the power line goes through him, and all this trash and debris flows on the next guy? It's gonna be his expense to hire attorneys and fees to get it stopped and cleaned up. I think that ought to be stopped now. Yeah, Dan?
I just drove down there yesterday around New Hope and so forth, because I heard the problem.
Yes.
The New Hope Road to the right, they had those big wooden planks, they were buried down in the mud,
Yeah.
and they'd run over them and just left them there.
Yep, yes,
I noticed that.
yes.
I had Britton High School as a student.
Yeah.
Good.
But I was promised they put them pads over sensitive tile. I got picture after picture. I'm headed out to Craig Smith's office now. that they're driving their cement trucks, not on the pads for support. They destroyed my tile. When I talked to George, I'm on a daily call with George, the chairman of this thing. They destroyed my tile outlet. There's no water flowing through it, even after 4.75 inches of water 2 days before. There's no water now going through that tile. I said, George, I want you to go through the hoops to get my tile out through the state highway. I know as an individual, who knows when I can get it done. You seem to get your entrance quickly. I want it done, and you do it. You forced the problem, I want him to do it. I said something to the supervisor on the site down there this morning about, I want these little shards of pieces picked up. There's a rain, called for rain today. Oh, we got crew coming in Saturday. I said, Saturday's gonna be too late if we get another rain like we've had. We've had 2 big rains. I said, that crap will flow through my field, and that'd be at our expense,
See,
at our time.
it'll go through a combine tire, somebody, tractor tire, just
Yeah,
ruin
I
it.
already have.
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm for it.
Yes.
But
So you're not getting any support at all from these guys?
Well, yes and no. We continue to see abuses. I pointed out to this big George, the big guy, who drove all the way down from Springfield. Kind of ticked me off when he comes down smelling all sweet and rosy to see the job. And I said, George, let me drive your pickup. I want to show you these problems. Oh, no, it's too rough, too dirty. George, this is my land, my livelihood you've done this on. Why don't we take your truck and I'll show you? No, he made us walk. And he didn't do it. He didn't walk. He sent a supervisor with me. So I said, I showed this tile out.
Constant call about, like this, every day, there's a tile broke. Oh, Mr. Becker, we got into another tile.
I pointed out, I got it clearly marked off of Route 1, the access coming off of my field into, you know how many hoops I gotta go through IDOT to get a tile outlet through a public right of way? I want it grandfathered in, I had it there before. But I told George, I want that fixed from your end. So what I had this morning was, I was up there, and George was there, and we addressed this problem. So that was in the morning. He left, I went to replant beans, come back that night, and they taken a tractor on, they built something about the size of this room, that they're taking the cement trucks and dumping, every truck, they dump 8, what did I hear, a cement truck, what, 8 to 12 yards of concrete. And some of the holes have like 240 yards in a hole. And I got 6 poles total on me. Some of that, they were just taking their cement trunks and dumping them in a pile in the field. I said, I don't want that concrete there. We pick up rocks. I don't want your concrete there. So they somewhat addressed that. So what they did, they dug this big hole. But they're from me to you is where that tile line lies, and they took the hole right there. And I thought,
These guys don't seem very intelligent.
and don't care.
It's just that you guys need to know, and
Every
they're
county
tearing
is
up the
taking a
ditches.
beating.
I mean, it's, yeah, it's,
You're
there'll be
probably
no
not getting one, are
drainage.
you?
Yeah. I've already called, I was sick one week, and I called, over the assessor's office. And I said, expect me, when you get in my taxes out, I want complete reversal. I want, my property values are down. It is not the same, never gonna be the same. And that's coming.
Anyway, we wanna thank
Thank you,
Carl for
Beth.
what
Thanks,
Carl did.
I think he made a difference.
Yeah, and they put some
I know what
poles
you
up
said.
to
They
hold the
done-
pads.
And they put some post up to secure the pads finally. I had 19 of those big pads float through my standing crops, destroyed a flood gate. I mean, we're not talking on 400 Road north of my house. They ended up in that bridge down there to the house south of us.
it's almost a half a mile across.
3/4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was 10 inch.
They have 2 poles with a string across with
Yeah.
little flat, what are those for?
Those 2 poles with the string crosses indicate to their workers that the overhead power line. That's what they're for.
That's what they're for.
Okay, so
I just wondered.
we have these big fancy entrances they built. And they're not using them. They're driving through the field, cutting ruts.
Yes.
I got pictures of a bulldozer that went through my road ditch. And all the rain we had, I said, I took the project in there and said, what's the path of least resistance water's gonna take? It's gonna follow your bulldozer track right into my field, and I'm getting all this water off the road. You've destroyed the ditches, now what are we gonna do with that?
does crop insurance cover what the damage?
No,
we've done?
that's outside the realm of crop insurance. It's not our
That's what I thought,
responsibility,
yeah.
no. Mm-mm.
Can I ask you a question, Brent? I know nobody likes to see that happening to the ground, and we all know the lawyers are gonna end up settling that down the road. The one thing I've always wondered about, and you said you're talking to Craig later on today, but your time.
Yeah.
Because,
Mhm.
that's not dollar value.
No.
Field tile, you can crunch numbers and come up with. Combine tires,
Yeah.
we can add up. But, I would make sure to consider your time.
I got
Because
another.
if hell, we've all had construction projects done. You may not be doing the work, but you spend a lot of time
Yes.
watching it.
Every day
Yeah,
I got
no,
to
I-
deal with this. I've got a concern about the good neighborhood that I had with Lyle Hutchings just passed away.
Yeah,
But I'm in very good terms with Linda and Tommy, his son, and the Higamons that farm their ground.
and you don't wanna make them mad
Well,
because you're tearing their
I
stuff
just
up.
spent,
Ruined their field.
Yeah,
when they came through in February, and I got a letter that said they're starting construction in April. They were there in February, when it was extremely soft, and drilled these pilot holes. One of those pilot holes, I'm assuming you've all heard, maybe you haven't, they were out on the Ferris property. And Jim and Mike Ferris, Jim and his son Kevin came along, and they got out there and said, "What are you guys doing?" So we're pilot drilling these holes. We have every right, we can do what we want, when we want, how we want. They were drilling a hole, and and Ferris just warned them, said, "You better not drill there, you're right over an anhydrous pipeline." And they got them stopped within 18 inches of that. That could kill. They got them stopped with that. I guess they fired that guy on the site, whatever. They destroyed 5 terraces on the Tate property of Grandview, and I heard he somewhat put some of it back, irreplaceable. I mean, they're just, oh.
But the sad thing is, the next place I was gonna stop was a Beacon. I worked out at the food pantry this morning, and they said, "What are you doing? You getting oil wells?" I said, no. People don't know what's going on, and they don't realize there's not very much money being spent here in Edgar County like they promised us.
No.
The boys are all, I followed them, they're staying in Marshall motels, they're eating Marshall food or Terre Haute. The fuel comes from Marshall.
Well, they did.
They
FS
have had
something.
some to FS, but most of it's coming,
Equity.
there's hardly any money. Now Marty and Chucky Wooten are getting a haul the dirt off, but other than that, there's no money being much spent here in Edgar County.
But I think you need to be addressing the idea that property damage is coming. And yes, I'm pointing out the fact that the damage that I had was on me. And yeah, I was compensated for that, and I'm probably gonna ask for more, because it went past their 150 foot. And this George, he made the comment to me, he says, Mr. Becker, we can exceed your 150 foot if we deem it necessary for construction zones to go beyond that 150 foot if we need it. Well, I was walking up to take a picture of a pickup truck that was parked in the shade over and beyond the 150 foot. Is that part of the additional 150 foot you need to park your truck, driving over my crops, to park your truck in the shade? And all these pads, is that part of your additional 150 foot? 19 of these pads went through my cornfield. And they about caused a wreck. Yeah, we're living it. We are to here with it.
I know we signed the road use agreement, but that has nothing to do with your damage, right?
No.
That's true. We're limited, obviously, we don't have any control on what's happening to his property,
No.
but we do on the roads.
Roads, right.
And that's why I insisted Monday
Yes.
when Aaron was here that he'd be on it every day, and hopefully you have been. And I personally talked to the guy in charge of the construction, the foreman, Monday,
Yeah.
and told him that the county board had met, and that we were concerned that you were abusing probably the agreement, they weren't following what they were supposed to do, and we would have the county highway monitored in this.
Can you file a lawsuit against Amron for damage to
I
your property? May take years to get
Yeah.
taken care of.
It's
right?
not the money.
I understand that.
Just
I understand
part of
that,
it.
right.
Another concern I had was, that, and I'll leave on this one, but I'm starting to go talking about the damages. I had tile running underneath the road. It'd been there before I was born. But Lyle Hutchins property drained onto me, and we had tile underneath the road. And they had really good crops last year. They had the big plant, there's nothing there now.
It's bare.
It's bare. I just spent $5,700 with Greg Sullivan this spring after that drilling thing went through in February and destroyed my tile. So I put $5,700 and we fixed them 2 tile lines that drain and drain the Hutchins line on the main. They put pads down, I got pictures to show, they're driving cement trucks between the pads, not using the pad. Destroyed the tile again. And that's, thanks for your time. I just wanted to, I didn't know there was a board meeting for it, but I heard about it, I said, oh, I'm coming up here.
And everybody's
Well,
told us,
wish we had
why don't we,
anything to do to help.
I know you don't, I know, but,
why don't we just move? And I said, how do you pick up and move, as you know?
yeah,
our-
We are glad
our
you came.
Barns are there, our
Okay.
bins are there,
yeah,
Well, your whole life is there.
yeah, yeah.
and it just,
I
it's,
mean,
and I thank Mr. Lawson
Yes.
for his comments. It consumes us, we haven't slept, we haven't ate, it just, you just think if they're just in your face all the time, but anyway,
but I mean,
thank you.
if nothing else, like I said earlier, yeah, the damage is on me on this one, and I was compensated. Oh, very handsomely, but that's not the point. Somebody's life is at stake the other night for that heavy rain, and there's no sense in that. And they cleaned some of that up, but on the other hand, when I leave, when I go to replant beans and I come back and they dug this great big hole and they're dumping their cement truck, scrapping that right over my tile line again, is that in spite of my complaining? What's with that? Now, they say they're gonna clean all that up. It never ends.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck,
Thank you.
folks.
Good luck,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, you know, someone, whether you or the township, but to me, it's your responsibility to see that they're doing stuff properly on the roads. And
First
you-
thing Monday morning, I visited with Josh and Dirk about the board's position
Right.
on our level of involvement, and Dirk's been out taking pictures, and Josh has had interactions with Josh Frank.
Just drive down, take a look at it, down by the
Well, yeah.
road.
No, I mean, yeah, we
Look at
have.
it.
Just something that we have some wherewithal on. He mentioned the drainage through the ditch of the road, and that's a permit through the state. Is that gonna be handled automatically? Is that something we can interfere on or to inject ourselves in to help with that process? What do you?
You cannot interfere with drainage on the downstream, you know, like what he was talking about.
No, I mean,
There's-
he's
yeah.
saying that they damaged the tile that you have to send permitting in for to get that redone. So I'm wondering if we can, you know, inject ourselves into that scenario if he needs help as far as working with IDOT to get that replaced, or if that's already part of the scope of the project and not something that'll be fixed anyway.
Certainly at the board's pleasure, the highway department will involve itself at whatever level the board directs us to. However, we have taken the position that, and of course, as you know, I knew 5 years ago the politics of this. This is not gonna go well, okay? Which is why the board asked Josh to head this up, and Josh is doing a fantastic job. He knows the rules of the road use agreement as well as anybody. He advises me all the time because I get a little emotional or passionate and say, let's run in there and help. And my response to you would be this, unless directed otherwise, until Carl this Sunday, we're gonna stick to the agreement and follow the road use agreement, which is we're bound by. And 99% of what the Beckers are going through, 99.9% of what the Beckers are consternated about does not involve your highway department. It does involve your highway department when an authority tells me to make it a highway department issue. We love the Beckers. I serve the people, I work for the Beckers, they're my bosses, just like you guys are. And if I can help them, I will. And I think they knew that, I think Carl knew that. But I think this frustration will boil over and we'll go looking for someone to blame. And that's why Josh is in charge rather than Aaron.
I think it's important
We're not
that,
afraid of work. I told you.
that we
Not afraid.
monitor, the monitoring of the situation is gonna put us in a position to help them several different ways. By monitoring, especially for safety or things that could happen like the road and the hydroplaning, we need to be in a position that, to report to IDOT and say, we're not aware, like I call them, if there's a deer out in the middle of the highway,
Sure.
somebody's gonna hit. That's a bad analogy and probably, well, it might be a fairly good one. We need to make sure that we have an open line and we've done everything that we can do so one of our citizens or somebody visiting isn't hurt, number one,
Always. Just
always.
so you guys know, always. When we hear of a problem, we address it.
And we talked about
And
it a
sometimes
little
it's just a
bit.
phone call or a piece of correspondence. I wanna make sure you know that. 99 times out of 100 are addressing a highway Route 1 flooding problem is to send an email.
Yeah.
Or a township road where they run dozers through, is to send an email. See, I tried to get out ahead of this, and it didn't work out very well, I don't wanna get long-winded,
Yeah.
but we don't have a proactive position. Ameren's pinned our ears back and made that clear. We have to take pictures of license plates, and give them the opportunity to come to look at the problem. Now, don't get me wrong, if something happens on our system, or as I told Carl Sunday, if it's a health and safety issue, we'll respond immediately. But again, not on Illinois Route 1.
Yeah, well, and that's where we
Pass the
talked,
information along.
we talked about it briefly on Route 1. Have you had any contact or heard anything about IDOT since now they
IDOT's in a COVID
damaged one
mode.
of their
I don't wanna
roads?
get too into that, but we're having our interaction with IDOT's limited, to say the least, at this time. We're having a lot of time, we're having a tough time. They're,
Well, and I don't think anybody's asking you to go outside the scope, but exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about of interfacing and communicating and
Yes.
make people aware.
Yes.
Absolutely want you to do that and be the squeaky wheel as
Yes.
pertains to any of this stuff. Any place that we have say, we need to be saying.
Do they have an
Josh,
emergency
no.
communication system? In other words, how, if there's something that's just needs to be handled yesterday, if they got any way to, in other words, if there's a pallet floating over the road on Route 1, they ought to have a system, and I'm over.
no, it's real, actually, it's not over, it is real.
Do they have an emergency line where you can call and they'll send somebody out?
Not an emergency line. I know Josh was talking to Josh Frank with them on Sunday. Josh has a, I don't wanna call it. a
Okay,
line.
okay.
We have you guys have a person at the highway department that's got a contact at Ameren.
Okay, what happened? What
Oh,
did
no,
they
we didn't
say?
hear about a pallet floating on Route 1 at midnight on
No,
Sunday.
but I mean, there was
Josh
water and,
passed it along Monday or Tuesday, passed along concerns Monday or Tuesday, and they've got their team coming out to look at it. And I think they've already approved some repairs, is that fair?
Okay.
Without getting into too many details. No, I don't know if I answered your question. The highway department does not have a line, there's no mechanism for some constituent to call Edgar County Highway Department and say there's a pallet in the ditch on Route 1. That I'm aware of.
all right.
I think most of our constituency, as Carl can attest to, knows that we're a good place to bark. Sound fair?
Yeah.
So, just a quick question. So let's say those pallets, we have 2 pallets stacked on one of our high-traffic county roads. We go out there and pull those off.
No
Are we
questions
sending
asked.
bills, or is that just part of the road
Absolutely.
use?
There's no questions asked if it's on our system. It's a whole different ballgame if it's on our system.
So are we compensated for that? Are we paid for
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. You see the rub? It's hard for me to speak for, it's not my jurisdiction.
No, and I understand. I think, you know.
I can't come clean the concrete mess up on Becker's easement, no matter how much I want to. I mean, as I told to.
And what this may all come down to is we are in solely a reactionary mode, right? When the dust settles, we're able to help as much as possible where we can help, and that's all we can ask. But right now, documentation, communication are our primary tools to, you know, keep
Yes, it is.
these in line.
And we want to make sure that you guys are comfortable in knowing that there's 3 of us at the department that are,
Where are they at in the project?
they're all over the place, got 4 crews scattered all over.
I mean, are they
Josh?
20%
They're supposed to be
done?
about 50% complete with the foundations.
Okay. And when do you expect the foundations to be done?
I thought that they're aiming for, I think around the end, it was the middle, maybe the middle of July, beginning of June, just depending on what the weather does to them.
Okay. I
Is this
just,
project complete by the end of the year, or
Yeah,
they
they're-
still have to come back in next year?
October.
They were hoping to have it, I think, the lines, and everything done by December.
Yeah.
End of the year, and maybe be active by then. So,
Yeah.
They haven't got the heavy traffic, cause they haven't started hauling the poles yet, have they? That's,
The
never seen
concrete
any poles.
weighs more than the poles.
And they're
No,
hauling
no,
those
Cranes and
shells.
stuff.
I haven't seen any poles out there.
And then stringing the lines, that's gonna be something else.
All right. Anything else on the,
Anything for the highway department? Any
need to-
concerns with how we're handling this with the board?
I think your hands are tied, you don't do so much.
Okay.
Be sure and let us know if you're not satisfied.
Well, yeah, but, you know, you gotta make sure they're following the agreement.
Right.
We believe that
And
they
when-
are on the road. So, again, Carl, how,
I don't see how they could, if what they're doing to the roads is part of the agreement,
it is, they said initially, we're going to destroy a lot of your roads. They told us the concrete's coming, this is when it's gonna get really tough. The agreement is they'll put it back in as good or better place, and for us,
how long is it gonna take them to do it?
again, I don't know. And what makes me the most nervous is us assuming liability with them. See, they drag us in, we had a constituent call us a month ago and say, we heard you're supposed to come fix this. And we're like, who are you and where are you? So you wanna be real careful not to make us co-joined or partnered. Our relationship with Ameren is to say, there's a problem with that spot right there, and we would like for you to fix it. And then they say, we'll look at it. They come back to us and say, we would like for you to fix it, and we will compensate you. Anything other than my own system, health and safety on my system, where I have jurisdiction, I can immediately respond to, go fix, and say, they're like, what do you do? I said, I fix a ditch and you're gonna pay me for it. But I can't do that on these other locations. I don't have the jurisdiction to do that.
I realize that. I mean, you know, that's a township road, Sims Township. But how can you help them, Sims Township?
We immediately have Josh, and this is painful, document and request that they look at his concerns, and then after they've looked at his concerns, they will tell him, we'll fix it, or could we get you to fix it? And then at that point, when they say, could we get you to fix it, he will look at the dirt and they will respond back with a timeline. Well, we're in the middle of a seal coat job, we could be there next week, or we could be there this evening, et cetera.
So how long does this all process take?
It's-
Weeks?
No, according to the road use agreement, is it 48, 72 hours? There's a road-
We've already done a couple repairs in a couple of spots, even they've called it done, we usually can get out there fairly quickly.
Okay.
On
But
township.
as soon as we hear about it, even township, we've done a couple repairs for Sims, we've done one for Kansas.
And I don't want you to get the wrong impression from me. If there's a public health and safety issue that is clear to me and that I'm made aware of, I would respond without approval on a township road. But certainly not on it, because we have a relationship.
But it doesn't sound like the construction, if they do something, they're not gonna call you and say, well, there's a problem here, do
They have.
Really?
They talked to Josh Frank, and we fixed a couple, they had a problem where they thought it was the road.
Well, that's why I
was
wanted you guys to, on a daily basis where they're working, just drive by. Let them know that you're out there checking, and maybe they'll make them more conscious to,
I understand. We're certainly trying. We're
just be on them.
okay. And don't be afraid to call us and let us know if you're not satisfied. We're trying our very, very best.
I put an Edgar County Highway Department sticker on my Jeep, so when I drive through
Yeah.
Sims Township twice a day, they see somebody.
We would appreciate it. We got magnets for you. Stop by after the meeting.
Put a star in the red light on Josh.
I don't
In
have
fact,
any
all we're all
doors. I'm
set
not
is you
sure
take
what to do.
magnets.
well, I'm glad the folks came in,
Yeah,
all right? And
no,
it's-
and I think we all
We're-
sympathize.
there's some empathy here and, yeah. All right, I'm Sam. Adam, what do you got anything?
Nothing different than Monday, unless you have something different.
So, have you had a nice time the last hour and a half?
Learn anything?
All right. Is there, on a more serious note, is there any questions of Horizon or the ambulance?
The Life Center will be opening end of the month.
The what?
The Life Center, so the joint building between HRC and us. So senior care that is currently in the Verona Mall will be moving back over on campus to the Life Center.
Do you know when HRC plans to be moved in there?
I believe by the end of the month.
At the same time
Yeah,
also?
we're having weekly meetings as far as, you may have noticed some ads in the paper for them hiring some people. They're gonna bring our crisis response, back into the county. So we're having some weekly meetings on that. Will hopefully speed up some of the psychiatric holds in the ED.
Do they need a crew out at the Shriners this weekend? Would you?
We haven't been asked.
I just-
That's up to somebody.
Historically, we never have, but that's something
I just wondered.
we could facilitate if they wanted it. But historically, we never had that.
That's all it is just drive-through.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But still, that would be for them to request.
I just wondered.
When is the next, health,
Next week,
next, what, 7 o'clock,
7 o'clock at the.
next Wednesday?
on Shaw, yeah, week from today,
Week from today?
yeah.
Okay, because if you don't mind, we'll segue into the fair. I talked to Terry Quinn again, and they have talked to the city, and the city is in favor of them having the fair in a modified fashion. And they have talked to the health department. I suggested, as you
I can
had
bring it up.
suggested, that they should be at the next meeting to talk. They have been told that special events permits will not be issued until we're in stage 5.
So should Janet contact somebody then, or?
No, we don't need to get them, I mean, however, as our representative to them, I know she's talked to Ollie,
Okay.
and there are some conflicting issues. So they need to get together and figure out what they're doing.
Should have something put on the agenda then for,
I would talk to whoever, I don't know.
Janet makes out the agenda.
Well, yeah, I don't know how to
I
tell
don't
you
know who
that.
else to
I don't know
contact.
how to negotiate, because I hear the board's one way and the health department's the other. So you can negotiate that deal,
Okay,
okay?
Can you let Terry know when the meeting is?
I've already done that. I wanted to double check that.
Okay.
And I also advised her and Mary Lou to get a hold of certain people, and they've done that.
I'll talk to Janet before the meeting.
Okay, so whatever you think you should do,
I
but
think I should talk to her.
it's fine. That's why I'm making you aware of it,
Okay,
because it could become an issue.
yes, it could.
So, at any rate, and, because I know the board has more or less said, if it could be done in some way, we would support something that
When
could
is
happen.
when is the fair?
Third week of July.
I don't know.
Third week of July.
Would we be in phase 4, but then you think, or?
Phase 4 starts the 26th this month.
That was about 2.
Well, yeah, I don't,
Okay, I'll talk to her.
I'm just trying to guide everybody together so they can solve the issues,
Okay.
okay? So is there anything, I mean, we can always deal with something at the next study session if we need to, okay? The Fair Board says again that they would like to make a decision before the 1st of July on whether there will be some kind of a fair event.
We're not gonna have the rides and stuff, with
You know what, I'm
I
not
heard
gonna
that.
answer any
Heard
questions
that.
about that because I don't know for sure, and that's probably a fluid situation. But I would assume not, but I don't know that,
Okay.
okay? Augie, do you have stuff you would like to talk about to the board?
Working on getting our portion of the tax cycle completed, which are the levies. And I won't take you down into the weeds because it's dirty down in there, but we hope to have it wrapped up here in the next couple of days so that I can hand it off to Don so he can work on the tax bills.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions of Augie? I guess we should talk about the jail inspection yesterday. After it was all done, I sat down with Mr. Weber, who's the vice president, and he was pleased. He said it was like night and day. He can't, until he sees all the reports, he can't give us a definitive answer, but he was hopeful that it would be positive that we be able to open up everything that we needed to, which would include the newer part and the lower part of the old jail, which would allow us to house 32 prisoners. I'm not exactly sure how many that is.
Not quite, but.
There's a couple of issues that they found. They were very minor in the physical aspects of it. The guy that handled, it was funny. When we all got in the same room, there were 6 Jeffs there. So I figured we were about 4 Jeffs over the limit. At any rate, one guy handled the physical and another guy handled the policies, procedures, and how things were done. Both of them came back positively, verbally, and so we went from there. I then called and told the same thing I'm telling you to Jeff in person, and then I talked to Derek and Jay. Jay was a little concerned. They were going to talk to some of his staff, and they never did, and so we had some folks on edge for a little while, but all in all, I think they were satisfied. The Department of Corrections showed up, which certainly didn't hurt anything, so that they could back up what the insurance company had found and make sure that if they had any questions, they could answer. The insurance company could ask corrections. So I don't know. I pushed, and Donnie from the insurance company pushed them on when we would know. They hope to have us an answer within 2 weeks. When pushed farther, they said, well, we'd rather say 2 weeks and be a week than tell you a week and be 3. So I do know that when he was on his way to our meeting, he already had called the underwriters about the situation and had them working on it. He does understand the situation we're in, that we're bleeding every day when we have inmates bleeding money, that is. Every day we have inmates and have to transport to other facilities. So they're all aware of those things. So that's all I can tell you that at this point, and we will let you know. Carl, your observations, if any?
Basically.
You have a staff hired to?
No, we only have 3 staff members that are certified, well, that are jailers now. 2 of them are certified, and 1 of them has been through training and is waiting to be tested, but the COVID-19 is postponed his testing. I know that they have a number of people that they've thinned the applications down to. We did lose 1 jailer recently. Found a better job, and that's where we sit.
As far as hiring, until we get the go-ahead, they're not gonna proceed with that.
I think the most telling statement of the whole thing was DOC showed up, and that was a good thing.
Yes.
So that is still, shows how far we have come in this.
Yes. I think we had the first positive report in Carl's in my memory from them, so now everybody will be back, periodically to check on us.
Good.
And we said we welcome that. I mean, you guys are the pros, I explained to them, and even the insurance, some of the insurance folks who are, deal with this all the time and some of the liability issues. That's how we know that our folks are doing the job they need to do. And I said, that's not a negative, that's a positive. We didn't do this board didn't do all that it's done just to have it go to hell in a handbasket in 6 months. So that's the way I view it. But at any rate. Committee reports. Andy is down in Texas. We have a new computer room upstairs in the judge's area that needs air conditioning. He got Sycamore and the judges to agree to what they're gonna do to solve that issue, and they're gonna pay it. It's a $7,800 expense that they're gonna do to maintain the environment that they need to for all of the new computer issues that the judges are dealing with and all of that. So
How did that get missed with smart watt? Or is that a good
That's,
question?
I think just communication,
Okay.
okay?
Is this like a server room or?
Yes,
is this
it's a
like
server room, yes. And it's, right off of probation there on the, on that side, okay? So Andy had set that all up and asked me to make sure that you're aware of it. And if you want a tour of it at some point, when Andy gets back, I'm sure he will give you one. Is there any, yes,
I asked this Monday, but, Augie, what was the problem with the health department that had to be taken care of again?
Well, a piece of their HVAC system failed, and they have to install what I think to be is a new chiller.
That's on the outside of the building.
Well, I don't know anything about it,
That's why I was
and
wondering.
don't
Because
quote
those
me
were
on
not
that.
replaced
There
when
was
we
a-
did the new.
When
A
you
major
talk to
piece of
Janet-
equipment needed to be
But
replaced.
as far as what, paying for that,
I have no idea.
okay, I'll talk to her.
yeah, you need to talk to Andy or,
Okay.
okay, we didn't know on Monday and we still
All
don't
right.
know, okay? Anything else to come before the board meeting this morning?
We need a closed session.
I understand, I'm just,
Just an update, other airport stuff. I got a request from Blake, who's with, our in-house, spray operation. Wanna know if he could paint the office. I said, go ahead. Figured that didn't need to be sent to committee. And then, he asked if he could put a sign up with our sign there on the highway. I said, well, wouldn't, have you seen our sign, was my comment. He said, well, we can look at it. What's that, yeah. Well, so he said, I can look and see, I said, if we put up new signs or bigger signs, I'm not sure those poles can withstand, I don't know what the state they're in, he said he'd look at that. But he was gonna get a quote for us, and then we go in together and put up new signage there on Route 1, so that's in work, but minor things, but something to keep everybody in the loop.
Derek, make a comment, you guys might wanna check with Josh on if there's gonna be permitting requirements for advertising along the state road.
Okay.
Before we put a sign out, they come by and say you can't do that.
Okay.
So we'll make sure that's
you can also operate under the guise that you can just do it and ask for forgiveness later too.
Yeah, they're pretty honoring in that division.
That's all right. I like
have a
to,
lot of success there. Otherwise, I agree with you, Jeff.
I'd like to, a little bit.
And they were in process of, they should be, as long as weather cooperates, they should be completing the painting out there on our new ramp today. So they had run into some little issues yesterday when I was there, but we should have a complete project. I think I can't imagine what else there is to do out there after they complete the painting of our ramps. So,
Good. Motion to go into exec session or closed session to deal with the, yes,
And personnel.
and personnel.
Did they have a 5-minute breaks on P?
Yes, Dan. All those in favor signify by, I'm sorry, is there a motion in a second?
I moved to let Dan go pee.
I definitely
I second to let me go.
Okay, it's Derek and Phil. I'm sorry, Phil got under the wire there. To go into exec session on personnel and the closed session minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Aaron, I need to ask you a question.
That's beautiful.
Okay, we're coming out of exec session, we're back in open session. We discussed personnel and we also discussed keeping the minutes, closed session minutes, open or closed. Is there a motion for the closed session minutes? You would move, somebody would move to keep them closed. John moves. Dan seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are closed, and that did pass. Is there anything else to come before the meeting today? Thank you all for participating a lot and your patience. So glad the Beckers came in. I hope they felt somewhat, at least there's another ear that
Nice
listens
guy.
to their issue.
I
Like to
don't
thank-
think he's gonna survive this the
No,
way it's
maybe.
going.
And I thank Carl for his attentiveness in the issue, so,
That's the
uh,
kind of guy.
anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Who moved?
he did, he's
Oh,
quick.
Eric moved and,
He is quick.
Bud seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.